Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Dr. Melissa, the Purpose Prophetess, and I would love to welcome you to our learning event for this week. Um, if you don't know, this learning event is a part of our My Soul Purpose community, and we are a fabulous community of individuals who are seeking to discover, uncover, and clarify our purposes and callings in life. And ultimately, what we want to do and what we endeavor to do is to walk in that purpose and that calling so that we're able to generate wealth, a legacy of wealth for our families. So, my mantra, my philosophy, my belief is that if you find and identify your purpose, what you are called to do, what only you can do, your unique thing that you were destined and designed and created to do, I believe it is in walking in that purpose that you will walk into prosperity, that you will walk into having a very profitable and sustainable business, that you will be able to walk into a situation where your family is set. You have created generational wealth. And so that is what my Soul Purpose community is all about. So that being said, if you were able to watch the 5-day purpose challenge, and if you didn't, it's absolutely okay. You're still in the right spot. You know that we did some unpacking of the types of things that keep us from walking in our purpose. And one of the biggest culprits of keeping us on that boat and not walking on the water is that low down, dirty, 4-letter F word. Now, I need you to get your mind out of the gutter. I'm not cursing. Fear. Fear is the dirty 4-letter F word that holds us hostage. So, this morning event this week, we're going to talk about fighting your fears. And we're going to give you some tangible strategies, some real tools on how to do that. For those of you that don't know, and I'm just prefacing that to let you know that I'm one of those people that I endeavor to be inspirational and motivational and encouraging and all of that. That is my calling. But I'm also a person that's very pragmatic. And I believe that after we've inspired you and after we've motivated you, we then need to equip you with something real and tangible. It's of no benefit to feel real good, warm and fuzzy on the inside, and motivated and ready to take charge and, you know, go up the hill and take the troops if you don't have any weapons in your hand. So I am, if you don't know, my doctorate degree is in education, curriculum and instruction. And so while I'm also very motivational, very inspirational, I'm also very pragmatic and really want to make sure that you walk away from not just this training and this learning event, but even from your time in this community, equipped with some very real things. Okay, so we're going to talk about some tangible things that's going to help you fight your fears. Let's go. Let's get started. Okay, so one of the things that I would say right off the bat that you need to know is that it is fear that's holding you back. 9 times out of 10, with all of the individuals that I am blessed and have the opportunity to talk to and to support and to help, 9 times out of 10, it's fear based. The thing that's keeping them from walking in their next, the thing that's keeping them from acknowledging that they are not living the lives that they wanted to live is fear. And I just want to stop right here and just help to set the room with the acknowledgement that fear exists. And so, if what you're hoping by this learning event or any other thing that you're doing in your life, if what you're hoping is that you're going to eliminate fear, I hate to be the one to tell you, but I don't see that happening. Even the really religious people that I talk to who have very deep opinions about not having fear and not walking in fear, even when I speak to them, I often say, if you are a believer and you understand scripture, then you know that the word fear is in the Bible more times than I care to acknowledge. That there are direct instructions in the Bible that says, fear not, don't be afraid, take courage. And you have to ask yourself, why would there be the need to have that instruction if the divine wasn't acknowledging that there was fear? So, we're not going to make any traction with trying to get rid of fear itself, okay? But what we're going to do is not allow fear to keep holding you back from the things that you need to do in your life, okay? So, understand that it's not the fear that's the issue. It's when fear gets out of control. That's when it's taken over your life and it's keeping you from doing the things in your life that brings joy and fulfillment and promotion. So fear exists, but when it's out of control, that is when it becomes really problematic. It causes us to miss out on great opportunities. You know, I shared the story during the Purpose Challenge about how my fear of flying held me hostage for many, many, many years of my life. I mean, I was literally petrified from the thought of getting on a plane. As I began to move through life, I started to realize that my worldview was very small. What I was able to visibly see was limited by the fact that I would not get out of the environment that I was in, not if it required getting on a plane. Okay. What ultimately happened with me, and I'm sad to say it, but it was a lesson, was that there were opportunities when I look back over my life that I actually missed out on. Destiny moments and points that had been laid out for me, um, in my mind by the divine, for me to walk into, that I just wouldn't because I was afraid. I was afraid to fly. So please understand that fear will cause us to miss out on great opportunities. Okay? You cannot run from fear or just hope that it will go away. Because unfortunately, we live in a world that there will always be something to worry about. Always. So that takes me to this quote that many of us have heard from FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who is one of our presidents. And he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Wow. And what does that mean? Right? Um, when I when I think about this and I unpack this particular quote, for me, what it means is that the thing that we need to be afraid of, the thing that is keeping us from our destiny, the thing that is keeping us up at night, the thing that is keeping us in lack and not prosperity, the thing that is standing in our way is fear. So, what we need to be afraid of is not some boogeyman out there, it's the fear that is stopping you and holding you hostage from everything else in your life. The only thing to fear is fear itself. Interesting, right? So, in this morning event, we're going to unpack some proven strategies for facing and overcoming your fears. So let's start with what exactly is fear. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of biochemical explanation because I'm not that smart and it's not my thing. Um, but I do want us to have an agreed upon basic definition of what fear is. Okay? Fear is a biological response. Biological means something happens in our body. You get afraid and your heart palpitates and your palms get sweaty. It's a biological response to an internal or external stimulus, something that's happening inside of us or something that's happening outside of us. So, stimulus, what is that? What is stimulus? Stimulus is the source, right? So, it's important for you to understand the source of your fear. What is the thing that's causing you to be afraid? Here's what I want you to know. Most fear is a response to an imagined reality. Now, please let me say, I'm not saying that they're not real fears and real stimulus and sources that causes fear and that should cause fear. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is most of the fears that we live with our imagined reality. Even if it's the fear of, we live in a world where there's violence and things going on. So for me, going out at 1 o'clock in the morning is something that makes me afraid. But it's still an imagined reality. It's not that it's happened. I imagine that if I go out at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to put myself at risk for to be the victim of some type of violence. Not that that's not true or wisdom, but it's still imagined. It's an imagined reality that causes me to, if I'm walking out of the building at night and it's, pitch black and I walk a little quicker to get to my car, it's the imagination of what could potentially happen. Okay? When you understand the true nature of fear, then it becomes easier to overcome. Okay? One of the things that the old folks used to say when I was growing up was you got to put the skunk on the table. And so some things we're trying to battle and overcome, and we really haven't looked that thing in the face to understand what it is. And so I'm going to invite you to just really take the time to become familiar with the nature of your particular fear. What is it that causes you to be afraid, right? And knowing that, understanding that is going to be a beginning step to help, along with some other things that I'm going to talk about and share. So let's identify those fears, right? Where does fear come from? A number of places. Fear comes from biology, sometimes just our biochemical makeup, the way that we are made up, the way that we process endorphins and dopamine and all that woo-woo stuff that I had to talk about for years as a therapist and dealing with addictions. But sometimes it comes from biological sources. Genetics certainly plays a part. So how many of us know that you can find whole families that are paralyzed by fear? They're more tentative, they're less willing to take a risk, and it's sort of just built into the DNA. It's sort of like, I just made a mention of addiction. It's sort of like with addiction, there's something that we call genetic predisposition. And what that means is that based on your genetic makeup, you're predisposed. You're more likely to become addicted than somebody who doesn't have that predisposition. It doesn't mean you will, and it doesn't mean someone that doesn't have that won't. It just means that it's like with diabetes. If it's something that runs in your bloodline, you're more likely, based on genetics, to get diabetes, right? Experience. Sometimes we go through things that creates a fear in us. And the thing that happened really did happen. And we really were traumatized. We really were victimized. So sometimes our experiences can create fear, and rightfully so. Our environment, there are some environments where just getting up in the morning and trying to get to the school bus can produce fear because of what's going on in the environment, or going to sleep at night to the sound of gunshots. The environment is the source, the stimulus of the fear. Or think about other countries that are war torn And they've had perpetual wars for years and years and years. And people grow up in just a hyper-vigilant state. You don't know when the bomb is going to go off. You don't know when the rocket is going to hit the building. So fear can come from our environment. Current circumstances. Sometimes what's happening in our life right now is fear evoking. And y'all, when I say fear, I don't want you to only think bad things. You may be experiencing fear right now because I'm challenging you to get out of the boat and take some risk and do some things that you haven't done before. To take the risk of some people not understanding you or not agreeing with you or not going with you. So even our current circumstances can produce fear. Family history, absolutely. The family is the first teacher. And so for some of us, even well-meaning parents or families taught us to be afraid. Don't go out there. No, don't try that. Might not work. Oh, no, don't run too fast. You might fall. No, don't go there. It might not work. Don't start that business. You might lose everything. Don't leave that good job. Don't leave that good job. So we can come from families that have taught us to be afraid. And sometimes, depending on culture, some cultures, even in this country, have gone through and dealt with such trauma and inequity and injustice that that fear was life-saving. You needed to be worried. You needed to not go into that place. You needed to not sit in that chair. So family history can also be a source of fear and where our fear comes from. So you're going to need to work a little bit to get to the bottom of those fears, to drill down. You know, you guys, if you talk to me at all, you know, I always talk about drilling down. Scratching the surface rarely gets us to where we need to go. So you got to work at getting to the bottom of those fears and being courageous enough to realize that it's going to be uncomfortable. I promise you it will. So let's start with this. Ask yourself, and I have a few questions, but I promise you there will be homework after this learning event where the questions are going to be a little bit more intense. Okay, so ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Just flat-footed. What is it that I'm scared about, right? Why? Why am I afraid of this? Oh my goodness, I'm afraid of flying. Why am I afraid? I feel like I might die. I have no control over whether the plane stays in the air. What do I try not to think about? What are the things that when your mind goes there, you go, no, I'm not even going to think about that. When do I feel afraid? That's another question to ask. And what emotions do I feel when I'm afraid? And somebody might say, what do you mean? Duh, if the emotions is fear. And what I would say to you is, no. I've spent many, many years talking to clients, and especially when I would talk to clients doing anger management counseling, I would say to them, they would say, I'm mad. And I would say, what are you afraid or worried about? What's hurting you? And they would say, no, I'm mad. And I would say, anger is a combination of fear and pain. Tell me something you're really angry about. And if we talk about it and drill down, we'll figure out something that you're scared about or something that's hurting you. You know, I'm mad. He didn't come home until 4:00 in the morning. Oh, I'm ticked off. I'm scared. I'm scared that he might be out with someone else and he's going to leave me. I'm hurt. I'm hurt because I wouldn't do this to him. And I feel disrespected and I feel rejected and I feel like he doesn't love me, right? So what emotions do I feel? When you're afraid of something, what are the emotions, the underlying emotions that you might be feeling? When identifying your fears, I want you to keep pushing until you get to the root cause. Drill down, drill down, drill down, drill down. Don't take the first answer. I'm afraid. Why? Because of this. Why? Because of this. Why? But why? Keep drilling down until you get to the root cause fear. So let me give you this example. If someone were to say, I'm so afraid I'm going to lose my job, I'm terrified I'm going to lose my job, I'm afraid. If we drill down a little bit and say, why are you so afraid that you'll lose your job? The answer might be, because I won't make any money. Oh, why are you afraid about not making money? Well, if I don't make money, I can't pay my bills. Well, why are you so afraid about not being able to pay your bills? Because if I can't pay my bills, I can't take care of my family. Ah, the fear is really not about the job. The fear is about not being able to provide for the ones that I love. I'm afraid that I'll let them down. I'm afraid that I won't be able to take care of them, right? When we drill down, we get to the real fear. So it's not about the job. You want to be able to take care of your family. Now, what I would say is does losing a job absolutely equal not being able to take care of your family? Because, like, is that the only job in the world, right? But just to give you some context about how to start thinking about this. So, I want you then to become aware of the different ways that fear is affecting your life. And this is where it really gets uncomfortable sometimes. Because sometimes for many people, myself included, it's almost tear producing because it's like, oh my goodness, I have allowed fear to stop me from doing so many things. My goodness, I've stood outside of doors that I could have walked in because I didn't feel like I was worthy of going in. I was afraid that I wasn't good enough, right? So here's the thing. The goal of this next exercise is going to be to bring you face to face with the consequences of your fears. The only way to really see if you're willing to continue with those fears, and some people may be, is to really come face to face with what the fear is costing you. And are you willing to still pay that cost to walk in that fear? Okay? You cannot avoid your fear. You will have to condition yourself. You will have to condition yourself to move in spite of the fear. You're going to have to condition yourself to doing it afraid. The fear may always be there. Every plane I board, I am still afraid. The fear is not gone. The fear is not as intense. The more I do it, the less intense the fear is. But the fear is still there. The fear of, did the pilot get enough rest? And if he didn't, it's not like I can jump out like in a car. So I have no control. And that's really, for me, what the fear is, a complete lack of control, right? But the fear is less intense now. But I'm still afraid. But I fly afraid. And I'm always grateful when I arrive to my destination and I'm able to see something or do something amazing or have an experience that's amazing, right? You're going to have to make up in your mind that, because some of you, you've been waiting year after year. So get rid of this fear. Oh, goodness, I'm trying. I'm working on what you're doing. I'm working on not being afraid. I'm working on not having fear. And 5 years later, I'm working on not being afraid. I need you to do it afraid. I need you to move in spite of the fear. So let's practice worst case, best case thinking. These are some of the tangible things that I told you that I was going to teach you to do. That's going to be helpful. So when you feel afraid, I want you to think about the worst case scenario. Okay? Just whatever it is that you're afraid of, I want you to think about the worst that could happen. So let's say, for example, you're afraid of public speaking, right? I want you to think of what is the worst thing that can happen. Get up there in front of all of these people. I forget what I'm supposed to say. Somebody's looking at their phone. They seem disinterested in what I'm saying. A few people get up and walk out. Some people might scarf or laugh. What is the worst thing that can happen? Now, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to eat your child. That won't be something that can happen. For the most part, I don't believe that like the building will crumble. That probably won't happen. Uh, yeah, yeah, worst things that can happen. Think about the very worst things that can happen, and they could. Okay, don't get me wrong. Those things could actually happen. Now, when you engage in worst case thinking, what you're going to discover is that the worst thing isn't as bad as you think it is. And what do I mean by that? I mean, is it survivable? If you got up to do this speech, you had this amazing opportunity to speak to a room of people, and somebody started looking at their cell phone because they were totally disinterested in what you were talking about. Could you survive that? Could you survive if somebody got up and walked out? Could you survive if you stumbled on your words, or if, like me, because public speaking was always something that I was very afraid to do? And for me, it was rooted in the fact that, oh, I'm from the country. I'm going to mess around and split a verb. That twang is going to come out, and people are going to think I'm not smart because I'm going to be, that twang will come out sometimes. But here's the thing. Even if that happened, if I stumbled on a word, split a verb, got real twangy, could I survive that? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't like it. It would suck. It would suck for sure. But would the sun come up the next day and the sky still be blue and the grass still be green? Yeah, I could survive that, right? That wouldn't be the apocalypse, right? Now, here's the flip side though. But what if everything went right? What if people were there and they were blessed by what I was saying? And it was this amazing experience. And I was walking in my calling and I was doing what I was meant to do, and people's lives were changed. What if one person's life was changed? What if one person decided not to harm themselves? What if one person got hope from my story or what I was sharing and decided to make a change in their lives? Would that be worth the worst case scenario, the risk? So, in other words, the risk of splitting a verb, the risk of somebody not being interested, outweigh the possible benefit of somebody's life being changed? When I balance those things out, absolutely not. See, when you envision the good thing that can come your way, it will motivate you to move and take action in spite of the fear, right? Somebody walks out, cool. I hate that. I wish they wanted to listen. I think I'm pretty interesting, but this person over here was waiting for somebody to say what she had buried in her heart and didn't have the courage or even the language to say. And I was able to say that. I was able to give her a voice today. And because of that, she was able to make a change. She was able to leave an abusive relationship. Like, yeah, I'll take the person that, the unfortunate person that didn't want to hear me, right? So, when the worst case scenario is very bad, though, let's be clear. Part of this is to really think about what's the worst thing that can happen. If the worst thing, for instance, if the thing that you're afraid of is bungee jumping off of the Empire State Building, and you think about the worst possible scenario, and the worst possible scenario would be like not being on this planet any longer, you can then make the decision. Make the decision about whether that's a fear that you need to address. And if it is, if you're like, no, well, it's on my bucket list and it's something I really want to do, and and I've done all the research and I know it's safe and it's worth the risk, people do it all the time. And by all means, let me give you an example. For me, I'm afraid of roller coasters. I don't like them. Okay. I do not like roller coasters. And so a few weeks ago, I was at an amusement park with my family. Let me tell you what I knew for sure. Not a lot of things in life I know for sure. I knew for sure that I would not be getting on a roller coaster. I'm afraid. And so somebody might say, well, Dr. M, you need to drink your own Kool-Aid. You're talking to us about facing fears and overcoming fears. And so you're afraid of riding roller coasters. Why don't you use your own techniques? And here's what I would say to you. I could, yes. But the benefits of getting on a roller coaster does not outweigh the risk for me, right? So let's talk about the benefits of getting on a roller coaster. It goes really, really fast. So if you're a speed demon, you really like it. I don't like speed. Oh, there are tremendous drops and hills and twists and turns. I don't like any of those things. I don't like, and I'm not fond of, any of the potential benefits of getting on the big bad wolf. So I don't feel the need to address that fear. I do have a fear of roller coasters, and I'm okay with that because I don't feel like I'm missing out on a single thing by not getting on a roller coaster. So you see what I mean? Weigh it out. If the worst case scenario is bad and it does not rise to the level that it can rival with the benefit, yeah, you don't have to do it. It's okay. Fear will always exist. And I'm saying that for the people in the back. That's like, I'm not afraid of anything. Okay. All right. We'll let you have that. So, one of the things that you can do when it comes to fear is focus on what you can control, right? Because remember, I said a lot of my fears and fears in general is based on what we can't control. We can't control if somebody jumps out of the bushes. We can't control if the boss fires us or if the economy turns. But let's talk about the importance of recognizing what you can't control versus what you can control. Let me tell you what you cannot control: the actions and responses of other people. No, you cannot control that. You cannot really even control the actions and responses of your children. You can teach them, you can discipline them, you can certainly do all of those things that as parents we should be doing, trying to train them and help them to make better choices and have better responses and better actions. But we can't control them. You really can't. You can take a toddler and sit them down. You can hold them. You're not controlling them. You're controlling their space. You're controlling their movement, but you're not controlling that response, right? So you can't control the actions or responses of others. You cannot control local or global events. You cannot control the traffic. And if you live in my part of Virginia, you understand that that is important to know. If you need to get to any place in this area, you better go ahead and leave early so that you're not one of those frustrated people that's ranting and raving, waving the finger. You cannot control the weather. Cannot. You cannot control what other people think. You see, my loves, what other people think about you is absolutely none of your business. None of your business. They have the right, they get to decide how they want to see you and what they want to think about you. And that's all good. It's only problematic when how they think about you is how you start thinking about you, right? Let people think what they want. They will do it anyway. So you might as well get okay with it, right? You cannot control aging. You can do some things now to try to, and I'm not mad at all. Let's use what we got. Work it the best way you can. But you cannot control the fact that you're going to get older. And I often say to people when people lament about getting older, I say, well, the only cure to growing old is to die young. The only cure for getting older or aging is to stop living. So you can't control the aging process. You're going to get older. You might look really good, and I'm sure most of you do. However, you're still older. I'm 53 all day long and twice on Thursday. And it really doesn't matter how I look or how you think I might look. I'm still 53 every day and twice on Thursday. You cannot control other people's opinions about you. People have the right to their opinions. It takes us a lifetime sometimes to make our peace with that. It's okay. They get to choose. They get to have an opinion, and it's okay. You get to just show up unapologetically as you. You cannot control the past. You cannot control the past. Even if the past was traumatic or difficult, and no matter how much you want to change it or control it, you cannot change or control the past. It already happened, right? I used to do this exercise with my clients years ago, and oftentimes it would be in a group setting, and I would say, hey, Peter, if John got up right now and pushed you out of that chair onto the floor, whose fault is it? And the group would say, it's John's fault. John got up and pushed Peter out of the chair. And I'm like, absolutely. Peter didn't deserve it. He didn't do anything wrong. He was violated. He was victimized. It was totally unfair. Shouldn't have happened to Peter. And we can all agree on that. That was wrong. John was wrong. John is the perpetrator. John is at fault. That's not Peter's fault. That's John's fault. But then I would say to Peter, so John pushed you in the floor, and it was John's fault. But if we all came back 6 months later, and you're lying on the floor in the exact same spot that John pushed you to, whose fault is that? Who's responsible for the fact that you're lying in that same spot? Now, I already know that this is controversial because some people have really said, no, it's still John's fault. And I'm not going to argue. We all have our different opinions. For me, my take on that is it was not your fault that you got pushed on the ground. But if 6 months later you're lying in the same spot, I'm going to need you to wiggle a finger, shake a leg, scoot, do something. Maybe you won't be up out of the floor. Maybe it'll take longer than 6 months to get back up. But if you're lying in the same spot, it means you've given John mastery not only of your past, but you've made him master of your present and your future. So that's just my take on that. You cannot control death, the inevitability of death, because it will come. And trust me, most recently I've had that experience. Death will happen, and you have absolutely no control over death. And so much more. So many more things that you don't have control over that I don't even want to talk about. But the point is, worrying about the things you can't control is a waste of time. After you finish worrying, it will still be there. Your worry will not erase one thing or change one thing, right? But let's talk about what you can control. You can control how you respond to any given thing. And so that contradicts when people say, oh, she made me cuss her out, or he made me do that, or she made me slap her. Mm-mm. No, no, no. No one can make you do anything. You choose that response, or I like to say that reaction, because I believe reaction is based and instinctual and without thought, and response requires us to stop and think and choose and decide. And most of the time, if we give ourselves a time to respond, the outcomes are better than when we simply react. However, you have choice over that. And somebody says, she made me slap her. I said, okay, she's got a lot of power over you. Can she make you give her all the money out of your wallet? Huh? If she doesn't have that kind of power to make you sit down and not get up until she say, if she doesn't have that kind of power to make you do other things, then she can't make you hit her. Right? So you can control what you think about. Negative thoughts will come. We have the option to either block those thoughts or embrace them. When negative thoughts come, and they will,
Ah, that was stupid. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I know that was crazy. Oh, I know they're looking at me and they're talking about me. Whatever. Oh, I know I'm not good enough for this job. Oh, I know I could never start my own business. Thoughts will come, but you can choose to focus on a greater thought. I want you to remember what you think on, you give energy to. So you can choose to say, no, 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 no. I'm going to block that thought. You can control how you treat other people. You absolutely can. And you can control the information that you consume. What that means is if you can control not listening to junky stuff or people that want to call you up with the tea, every day. Girl, let me tell you what so and so did. Do you know she did so and such and such? You can control whether or not you choose to spend your time listening to that or filling your spirit and your mind with something that's beneficial, something that helps you get to the next level. I want you to remember that the saying is, and I hope I don't jack this up, great minds think about ideas. Average minds think about things, and small minds think or talk about people. So I might have jacked that up just a little bit, but it was something like that. You can control how you treat your body, exercise and eating right, all of that. You can control your self talk, the things you say to yourself, not even those things that other people say. You can control your sleep habits. You can control how consistent you are. Do you show up? Are you engaged? Are you participating in the weekly activities? Are you going to finish watching this training? You can control how consistent you are. Okay? So when you focus on the things that you can control, your fears aren't able to hold you hostage and your life will improve because you're no longer paralyzed. The more you focus on your own thoughts and actions, the more control that you have. What things can I do? And this leads us to this concept of internal or external locus of control. Internal locus of control means I have control over the things that happen with me. Not everything, but I don't feel powerless. I don't feel like things are happening to me. I feel like I have the ability to make some decisions and do some things that can improve my life. As opposed to someone with an external locus of control where it's these things keep happening to me. It doesn't matter what I do, bad things keep happening to me. So they feel completely powerless, like their life is completely out of their control. Okay? When you find yourself dealing with fear, I want you to stop and just ask yourself, what's under my control? What can I control? And control the controllables. Okay? So, one of the ways that you can do that is you can choose gratitude. I am telling you that most of the time, when we're dealing with fear, we're dealing with being afraid that there's something that's missing, something we're not going to have. We're afraid that we're not going to get love that we need. We're afraid that we're not going to be respected. We're afraid that we don't have enough money or we won't have enough money. We're afraid that we're going to lose our health or our possessions. Fear is largely steeped in lack, or a mentality of lack. Gratitude, on the other hand, completely shifts your perspective. It fixes your focus on what you already do have. I'm afraid I won't have enough money. Oh, I'm so grateful that I was able to have food on my table today and a roof over my head. Right? Um, Gratitude helps us to be. It's the antidote for fear, and especially when we're consistently grateful. We're intentional about being grateful. So let's talk about ways to be intentional with our gratitude. First, you can keep a daily gratitude journal. And I want you to know, as part of this community, I do have a journal, a free journal for everyone that's in this community that we will have posted in the community. Take that journal, download it, print it out, and just be intentional. I do gratitude every morning. It sets my day. It sets the tone for my day. It sets the intentions for my day. Send text messages to a friend. Send a handwritten note if people even do that anymore. Tell your loved ones that you love them while you have the chance. Um, Embrace every opportunity that you have to grow. Every time that you're given an opportunity, it's a blessing. And it's one of those things when you're grateful, it's like, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful I have the opportunity to share this information and this time with you guys. I'm extremely grateful because it's an opportunity that I chose to embrace rather than run from. Um, and then here's the thing, post about gratitude on social media. I mean, people posting about their food and their thumb thugging and talking trash, probably stuff they wouldn't say to a person's face. They're telling all of their business on social media. Why don't we post about gratitude, the things that we're grateful for? Let's start that as a practice. Now, here's the concept I want you to think about. I want you to schedule your worries. I just told you worrying is going to happen, right? There's always something to worry about. So, one technique that I have utilized, and I can't say I coined it, it was coined by some psychologists, but it's to actually schedule a time that you would think about the things that worry you. So, what we're doing there, we're already acknowledging that we're going to get worried, right? So, let's schedule that. Let's take some control over that. Set aside 15 to 30 minutes a day. I would say 15, closer to 15. But during that time, write down everything that worries you. You don't have to come up with solutions. You just need to write it down on paper. Anything that worries you, write it down. Now, here's the dope part of it. If you start to worry about something else, anything, at any other point of the day, you have to tell yourself, I can't worry about this now because this is not the worry time. So if your worry time is from 10 to 10:30 and you're in a meeting at work at 1 o'clock and you start to worry that the presentation is not going to go right, you have to say, no, my worry time is between 10 and 10:30. So I'll have to get back to that. Thank you, worry. Yes, and I'm not disregarding you. I'm just saying that I need you to get on my calendar from 10 to 10:30. Schedule your worries. Sounds like a crazy concept, but I'm telling you, and you'll find it is challenging at first to put them off. But what you're doing is taking control over the worry. You exist. I get it. I get it. You're not going anywhere. I get it. But I'm going to need you to get on my calendar at this particular time, and then I will worry about you then. Right? I'll see you at 10. Right? So, another thing that you can do with respect to overcoming and fighting your fears is to get some support. Getting support from others is crucial, especially if you deal with worry on a regular basis, because worry on steroids is anxiety. So you need to be able to differentiate between worry or is this anxiety. One of the things you can do is talk to a friend. Um, you can join and stay actively engaged in da, 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 the My Soul Purpose community. Plenty of support there. Guarantee it. Plenty of support for you with that. You can talk to a therapist or a coach. To just take some time to say that if you have like a phobia or, like I said, generalized anxiety disorder, stuff like that, that's really a little bit more challenging, therapy might be the way to go. And I would strongly encourage that. And you can certainly reach out to me, and I have some resources for that as well. This community is not, we don't do therapy. However, I promise you, we acknowledge that there are some issues that might need the touch of a therapist. And I certainly want you, I strongly urge you to make that differentiation and reach out so that I can give you some resources. If you feel like your particular fears is really something more than can be addressed with the strategies that I'm giving you. So, do you need a therapist or a coach? Right? That the big thing about that I want you to know is that coaching and therapy is different. Coaching is more about therapy. Let me start with it. Therapy is more about the whys, what's going on and why, and let's figure out. Let's go back, that sort of thing. And coaching is more about how can I help you move past it? What about now? Yes, you're afraid. What can we do now? It's very action oriented, more than perspective taking and introspection and really that sort of thing. It's really more about action, taking action steps. And all of these, do you need a therapist or a coach? It's really about, um, the level of debilitation that your fear might be causing you. If it's really absurd in your life where you can't leave the house, some real limiting things like that, then therapy is the way to go. I want you to know, I have to say this because we come from a culture oftentimes that keep it moving, it is what it is, I'm good. Many of the strongest, most successful people in the world get therapy or coaching. Okay? Lastly, I would just want to tell you to have some self-compassion. Give yourself some grace. Be compassionate to yourself. I've already explained to you that fear exists in everybody, even the people that want to say it doesn't. Okay? But if you're unwilling to accept yourself until you completely get over your fears, you're going to be unhappy. Okay? If you want to overcome your fears, you got to have the courage to, at first, give yourself grace and accept yourself as you are. This is my thing. I'm afraid of flying. This is my thing. And I acknowledge that. Now, strategies for overcoming fear. Um, Identify your fears, practice the worst case, best case thinking, focus on what you can control, choose gratitude, get support, schedule your worries, talk to a therapist. We've talked about all of that. We talked about tangible things that you can do. You're not walking away from this live event saying, what can I do? We have talked about tangible strategies. So it's okay to feel the fear, but do not let it conquer you. Do not let it upset your life. And I will tell you that as wonderful as I am, the strategies that I've given you will not eliminate fear from your life. But it will make it easier for you to cope with it and overcome. Courage. Courage in the face of fear. Nelson Mandela. And he said, I've learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man or woman is not the one who does not feel afraid, but he or she who conquers that fear. It's work, y'all. But you are so worth the work. Your calling, your destiny, your purpose is worth the work. So, thank you so much for taking part of this learning event. There will be homework. I will have homework assigned, and I want you to stay engaged with the other activities that are happening this week. It'll all build on this training. You guys, how you show up for anything is how you show up for everything. You're not going to get out if you don't put in. You immerse yourself and put yourself in this process, and you're going to see change, and you're going to see progress, and you're going to see purpose, and I believe you're going to see profits. Take care. See you next time.